Scott McKinnon. I currently own my own consulting business. After 36 years in industry, I decided to leave big business and start my own consulting business. And I focus primarily on private equity companies in the areas of sourcing, supply chain, and operations. I received my undergrad in Bachelor of Science from Florida State University way back in the day. And shortly thereafter, I received my Master's in Business Administration from Embry-Riddle. And that was back in the mid to late 80s, all of that happened. It was a great experience. As I look back on my 36 years in industry, times have obviously changed, the environment's changed, how long do you stay in business has changed. And my first company, I worked for an aerospace company for almost 20 years. It was a large Fortune 100 company. It afforded so much training, so much experience on a large scale, global experience, various functional discipline, that was part of the business, the relationships, the team building, et cetera, et cetera. I left that company and worked with another large industrial company for about 7 years. And that's when I got my first taste actually of a turnaround business. One of the business units were not operating effectively, certainly not from a cost standpoint. So I was part of a new team of about 4 people that went in there and in 18 months turned around the business and we sold it. It was the first time in my career that I had the opportunity to actually entertain 4 different companies on the outside, give them a pitch, and we eventually sold the business. So from there, I left, and that's when I joined the private equity world. Back in 2010, joined a company called TPG as a sourcing lead for one of their portfolio companies. It happened to be in the oil field. And kind of fast forward through that time period, that 10 years from 2010 to today, been involved in a variety of turnaround businesses, growth businesses where private equity have invested money into them. And then at the end of 2019, after the sale of our last company, I decided to create my own consulting business and basically do the same thing. But basically, I would go in a defined period of time, whether it was on a growth standpoint or doing, again, a turnaround standpoint. And the engagements are anywhere from 2 months to 10 months. I'm currently doing a 10-month assignment. Then I will back out, regroup, rinse, wash, and repeat. And primarily with the same 1 or 2 private equity companies. Phenomenal question. And you look at a lot of people as they're coming out of college is, a lot of people like to think they're entrepreneurial and maybe not knowing exactly what that means. I went in this with my eyes wide open, did a lot of research. The good part about it is the obvious, right? I can control what I want to work on, when I want to work, and, to a large extent, not be governed, if you would, on what to do day to day. I'm assigned, or I go in there with a specific purpose. And so access to resources, both within the private equity company and the portfolio company are, I don't want to say at my disposal, but certainly better than if I was probably implanted into the company. So the good side is the flexibility of what you have to kind of run your own show. The bad part, and here's the kind of the eye opener, is you're a business. You have to manage your inside business as far as you're responsible for your own health benefits. You have to, at the right time, without sacrificing the work that you're doing for the company, you have to start reaching out to other companies for work. You have to either have your own tax accountant or do your taxes yourself. So it's, the good comes with, and I don't want to say that's all bad, but it's challenging trying to keep focus on both parts of that ownership responsibility into a small business. You really have to, it's everything you do to lead up to that field. I mean, there are companies out there that will hire you, there are consulting companies that you can work for. But first of all, you have to earn the right to do what I'm doing. And not to say that, it was a, slave labor type, but I've been in C-suite roles in companies, before I took this leap. So you've already built that, those credentials, right? So you need to be able to do that. And in those roles, even before you get here, there's some fundamentals, right? You're asked to do certain things, you're required to do certain things in your role, and those expectations. And I would subscribe to, you have to do more than you're asked. You have to do more than expected, and certainly do more than what's required of a job function. Venture out into other areas. Sustainability is key in a lot of businesses that I deal with. Don't be functionally siloed in what you're doing, whether you're an accountant, a purchasing person, an ops person. Understand the other functional disciplines. How do they interrelate? How do they interact? You get that background and that experience and those credentials behind you. That's how you launch yourself into, if that's something you want to do, into that sole proprietorship that comes along with the good, bad, and the ugly. But you need to be prepared. You have to, if you're going to sit down with a CFO or a CEO, have you been there and done that? Can you instill the confidence in them and your abilities to get the job done? What I just mentioned is, go in with a full understanding of what it means. You had asked about work-life balance. Let me give you kind of the good and bad of that, as well as, any students that think coming out of college, or even going through the ranks of an established company and then becoming an entrepreneur, is work-life balance can be good and can be bad. As I mentioned before, is you're afforded the opportunity to work when you want to, but unfortunately, it's not always you dictating when you want to work. The opportunities may not be there. For example, when COVID hit last year, a lot of people lost their jobs, right? And so, you as an entrepreneur wanted to work, jobs weren't out there to work. So, do your research, really understand, first of all, what are your strengths, your weaknesses? What are you going to be able to offer an employer that would differentiate you from the rest of the herd, so to speak? Education, training doesn't stop when you leave school. You should be learning almost on a daily basis of not only how to do your job better, but whatever you aspire to do, learn that operation or learn that skill as well. I want to leave you with one example. My son is an attorney in Houston. He loves real estate and he loves financial investing, not part of his core curriculum as an attorney. But his point is, I may not always be an attorney, so I'm learning to do these other skills that open up a wide variety, whether it's in the legal field or just pivoting and saying, I want to do something different. So I would encourage anybody getting on this journey, don't stop learning when you leave school.